Hey everybody. So, don't look now, but the St. Louis Blues have pulled into a playoff spot in the Western Conference. They are now the last wild card team out west, and this is a team that I completely wrote off after the start of that they had this season, and by probably around Thanksgiving, certainly by Christmas, I had completely written this team off. I said they were all done. I think a lot of people thought they were all done. The first really half of this year was an absolute disaster for the Blues. They were playing terrible hockey. They looked completely dysfunctional. They were near the bottom of the Western Conference standings, but everything has changed for this team lately, and it's really incredible where they're at now compared to where they were even 2 months ago. And when you look at St. Louis here, 52 games played. So most teams are at 54 or 55 now. So they still have less games played than everyone else. And they're 25, 22, and 5 now for 55 points, which again is good for the last wild card spot out west. They're 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10 games. And they're on a 4-game winning streak right now. St. Louis really has turned a corner the past 6 to 8 weeks. Things have really changed for this team. Things have really turned around for this team in the last 6 to 8 weeks. They've gone from being one of the worst teams in the NHL and one of the bottom teams out west to being a playoff team at this point. And they certainly have a more than a possibility of making the playoffs. They probably should make the playoffs given how they've played over the last few weeks and where they're at in the standings right now. They should make the playoffs, and the way that they look now is what we expected the Blues to look like all season long, and this is the team that they can be. But for whatever reason, the first half of the season was just an absolute disaster. Obviously, there were a lot of changes with the team in the offseason. Whole new, tons of roster additions, trades, free agency. They really retooled the roster. And I thought that it would be certainly possible for St. Louis to get off to a slow start. You have all these new players playing together. You have guys who, the team has to gel, and that takes time. But I thought that would take 20, maybe 25 games tops. And once we got past that point and St. Louis was still playing like garbage, then I thought, that's not the issue. It's something else. Maybe there's more going on here than just this team, needs to get used to each other. Because after 20, 25 games, I thought that, that would be enough time. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it did take half the season and about 40 or so games. 35, 40 games to really get it together. And now that we're past that point, it seems like things have completely turned around for the Blues, and they're playing so much better right now and just playing great hockey. And so, maybe that did have an effect on it. The whole, bring all these new guys in, changing the roster so much. They ended up changing the coach early in the season. Maybe there was just too much turnover and too much turmoil, and it took them a lot longer than expected to really get it together through all of that. But they certainly seem to have it together now, and they look like certainly a playoff team the way that they're playing right now, and a team that could potentially be a tough out in the first round of the playoffs. Another obvious huge difference for St. Louis has been Jordan Binnington in goal. Goaltending has been an issue for the Blues for the last couple of years. Jake Allen is just wildly inconsistent. Last year they had Carter Hutton backing up Jake Allen, and Hutton had a very good season. A good enough season for him to go off and get a big contract from Buffalo. So without Hutton, they went with Chad Johnson as their backup goaltender, and that did not pan out at all. Johnson did not have a good time in St. Louis. He's since moved on, and Jordan Binnington has come up from the AHL, the minor leagues, and he has been absolutely outstanding for the St. Louis Blues. Binnington, he's played 12 games. Believe he started 10. He's 8-1-1 in those 10 games. He has a .931 save percentage and a 1.70 goals against average right now. Obviously, that's a pretty small sample size, and if he was a full-time starter, those numbers probably wouldn't be quite as good. But he's been absolutely remarkable in goal for St. Louis, and that's been a huge, huge difference because Jake Allen was not playing well earlier in this season. They didn't have a good backup to Jake Allen. And now Binnington comes up and he has really helped out a ton and changed a lot of things. Yes, Jake Allen is playing a little bit better, especially of recent, but his goals against is still over 3. His save percentage is still under .900. It's really been Jordan Binnington that's been the driving force in goal for St. Louis these past few weeks. He's come up and has just been absolutely outstanding. So, Binnington's a guy that, he played with the Providence Bruins last year on loan in the AHL. I got to see a lot of Jordan Binnington. He was impressive. He looked good, but I did not expect this. I thought he was, a good AHL goalie, maybe someone who could come up and be an okay backup at the NHL level, but nothing more than that. He's come up and been an incredible backup at the NHL level, and he's taking starts from Jake Allen because Jake Allen he's not good enough. Jake Allen has not been good enough for the St. Louis Blues. He does not look like a franchise goalie. He's way too inconsistent, way too shaky. But I don't know if Binnington is necessarily a long-term solution in goal for the Blues, but he certainly has been a short-term solution, and he's just been absolutely incredible. So, much better goaltending is playing a huge, huge part in the Blues' turnaround, as is, I think, just the team coming together and playing well together, and things are finally starting to click for the St. Louis Blues. So they've pulled themselves from near the bottom of the conference all the way up into a playoff spot right now. It's still going to be an absolute dogfight for those bottom playoff spots in the West. There are a lot of teams still in it. Basically, the whole Western Conference, points-wise, is kind of still in it. So it's going to be an absolute dogfight. They're certainly not guaranteed a playoff spot, but given how bad they were the first half of the year versus where they are now, they certainly look like a playoff team to me, and a team that hopefully can continue to play at this level, and if they do, they will certainly make the playoffs. So that's what I've got on the St. Louis Blues. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.